Annetta Lucero is a competitive athlete who's managed to perform at the highest levels of her sport and to understand the mindset it takes to become a winner. She's a Guinness World Record holding baton twirler and a former Cirque du Soleil performer whose journey to the top of her sport called for her to overcome obstacles that could have easily defeated her. Her memoir is called The DAO of Winning, and she spoke with Chris Vandercook about it the other day.
For me, in my personal journey, I came to that fact just from living my life and having so much adversity, more than one would possibly imagine. And then I come to the place where I realize that every single human being has these adversities, and regardless of how large or small they seem, the approach that really saved me in my life was looking at that adversity not as something that was an enemy to me or something that I had to battle or fight, but looking at it as something that was the signpost and the stepping stones to where I was going, and to use the adversity to catapult me into a better way of thinking for myself, and to aim for the beauty and the peace and the joy in all of the situations, regardless of what those situations were.
What was the nature of that adversity, just to help us understand that a little more?
I suffered a lot of abuse as a child, and I was born with 3 missing vertebrae, a brain cyst, systemic lupus, and epilepsy. So it was never considered for me to be able to be an athlete, and yet this athletic sport had been in my family for generations, and it was an expected thing for the next generation to be able to take the mantle and take it all the way to the World Championships.
Of baton twirling.
Of competitive baton twirling, which, just to clarify, people sometimes get an immediate vision of a majorette marching in a parade, and that is absolutely not what I do and not what I have been trained to do. I'm an elite gymnast and professional dancer, and toss a baton up 40 feet in the air doing major gymnastics and catching it in many different places. So it's a high-level, high-pressure competitive sport. And I encourage anybody who hasn't seen the sport of baton twirling to go on YouTube and type in something like WBTF World Championships, and you'll see real athletes.
Well, it's what drew you, in spite of reasons, kind of a genetic inheritance to stay away from it. So you had a great deal more to overcome than others in your sport, right?
I really did, and I think in overcoming what I just had to overcome in life in general helped me to become the athlete that I eventually became, because I had practice in overcoming hardship and adversity, which is what you're dealing with every time you walk out onto the competition floor in front of 11 judges from many different countries and 10,000 people in an audience. And I could easily hold my own under that kind of pressure.
You know, Annetta, when you hear the stories of people who've reached excellence in one field or another, frequently as part of the mix of ingredients, there's a little bit of struggle and adversity in there in an awful lot of those stories.
I'd say way more than not.
Why do you think that is?
I think that life builds champions, and people who rise to the occasions of life, no matter what they are, they learn in life how to overcome. And in the field of competition, that's such an asset. And if you can do it without anger, as a child, I did have a lot of anger, and I fought for what I wanted, and I was very disappointed, and I was very jealous, and there were a lot of these feelings that came in. And when I was 12 years old, I happened to run into some world-class coaches that took me under their wing, and they taught me so much more than my sport. And they really showed me a different way of thinking and living, and this is a lesson that I took with me for the rest of my life, even to this day, is to do things with peace and kindness to yourself even as you push yourself. And when I learned that philosophy, I went from having won nothing in my entire career to suddenly being the youngest Grand National champion in the United States. And it happened in a matter of 3 months. So it wasn't my ability that was lacking. It was my mindset that had not yet been prompted into a higher level of awareness. And when that happened, everything changed.
So, Annetta, that prior mindset, did that consist of you sort of being your own worst enemy in a competitive situation?
Absolutely. My own worst enemy in life and in competition. And all of the practice in the world and the talent that I had developed, it wasn't enough to make me that champion I so desired to be. And when my mindset and awareness developed and changed and became something that could offer beauty to myself and to the world, that opened a whole new level of thought and being and becoming, and that is when I began to flourish.
If someone else, another athlete and a competitive athlete who suspected that he or she might be doing some of the same thing, if someone like that came to you for advice, how can I stop editing myself, talking myself out of success, what would you say to them?
The first thing that I offer to people who do come to me in my sport or other sports and they want to know this information is, and this is true for sports or life, because everything in my book, The DAO of Winning, is not just about sport. It really is about life and how to find peace and comfort and health. And I think the primary focus in the beginning is to stop looking at others, to stop comparing yourself with others, stop comparing your routine with the other's routine, and really focus on what your best asset is. And when you can see the assets that you have to offer, you begin to develop those. And as those strengthen, your beauty and talent and effort begins to shine in a way that it never has before, because you don't have other people in the way of who you're becoming. That makes all of the difference in the world.
You don't have other people in the way, and you don't have yourself in your own way, sounds like.
You get yourself out of the way as well, because you start to see yourself in a new light when you're focused on your strengths and what you're capable of, rather than focused on what you're doing weaker than others and trying to catch up with them. I was very innovative in my sport and brought a lot of new elements. There are specific tricks that are actually named after me. There's a thing called the Lucero roll, and that would never have happened if I was trying to catch up with Susie Q. Smith, who was doing her best roll. If I was trying to learn her roll and do it better than her, I would not have accomplished that. I would not have succeeded. But when I began to look only at my own strengths and what I could do, and also appreciate the strengths of the others without trying to match them or copy them or overcome them, I could appreciate their strength and develop mine at the same time. And that just made my strength skyrocket, and it made me very untouchable in my sport.
Hawaii Island resident Annetta Lucero is the author of The DAO of Winning. You can learn more about her and her work on the Conversation Facebook page.